All right, wide receiver starts, sits, and touchdown predictions. Let's go. Game by game here, you have the Jets versus the Baltimore Ravens. Demaryius Thomas on the injury list. I don't love the matchup for the Jets. I don't think we're going to get a lot of touchdowns here, but based on yardage accumulation, I think Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder can get it done for you. For Baltimore, I actually do have Marquise Brown as a start, although, again, I don't have him getting into the end zone either, just accumulating yardage. Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. I like John Brown this week, and he's the only receiver I like as a potential touchdown, and even him I don't have getting into the end zone this week. For Pittsburgh, I don't have any receiver, including Juju Smith-Schuster, who's now healthy, graded as a start. I don't think anybody gets into the end zone for the wide receiver core for Pittsburgh either. I think this will be a low-scoring, challenging but low-scoring game for both Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Chicago versus Green Bay. I do have Allen Robinson as a start. I know Miller has been playing well as of late, but I do not have him as a start. Allen Robinson, I believe, gets into the end zone this week. For Green Bay, same deal. I only have Devontae Adams as a play, and I think he's the only one that scores in the passing game for the Green Bay Packers. For Denver versus Kansas City, I do have Cortland Sutton as a start. Not a touchdown, but yardage and catches for you to accumulate. So if you're in a touchdown-only league, I think you can go elsewhere. For Kansas City, I have Tariq Hill as a definite start. And I do think he gets in the end zone twice this week against Denver. But I don't like any of the other receivers, and I don't think any other receiver gets into the end zone, though I do like Kelsey. Let's see. Houston versus Tennessee. DeAndre Hopkins is a definite start, gets into the end zone this week. Will Fuller, I believe, if he plays, gets into the end zone as well. So he would also be a start for me, and then I don't like QT or Stills or anybody else for Houston. Tennessee, meanwhile, I saw what A.J. Brown did last week. He's a beast, but Tannehill distributes the ball a little bit too much for my comfort level here. I think Tennessee's offense will be successful. I don't love a start for the Tennessee Titans. Now, I think touchdowns will be distributed across the receiving core. I just don't know where they're going to go. So I would say most likely is A.J. Brown. Next likely for me is Adam Humphries, assuming he plays. And then Corey Davis would be third most likely at the wide receiver position there. Miami versus the New York Giants. Devontae Parker's in concussion protocol. If he plays, I think he's a start and he scores. If not, you could probably go to Allen Hurns next, who's also, I believe, on the injury report. But I don't love Miami outside of Devontae Parker. For the New York Giants, I actually really like Sterling Shepard this week. I think he gets into the end zone for the New York Giants once, possibly even twice. Slay and Golden Tate are graded as fringe starts for me. I know what Slay's been doing. I think you could take a flyer on him because he's been performing so well, but we'll see what happens there. Miami's defense gives up some points, and Golden Tate's on the injury report, which again kind of pushes me a little bit more towards Slay. Next game, we have New England versus Cincinnati. I actually like Julian Edelman and Philip Dorsett this week as plays. I don't have either one as getting into the end zone, believe it or not, but I do think it's likely that Julian Edelman gets a touchdown personally. I think, computer projections don't have him getting in, but I do think he will. Philip Dorsett, I think, gets you yardage accumulation, and he will get you some red zone looks, so check him out as well. Now, for Cincinnati, I don't have anybody as a start. I don't care if A.J. Green plays. I don't care if Tyler Boyd plays. I don't care if they sign the ghost of Randy Moss and he plays. I don't care. I don't have them starting. Philadelphia versus Washington. We know what's going on with the injuries for Philadelphia at the wide receiver position. To me, it's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside coming off of waivers or bust. I don't like Nelson Aguilar. I would not trust him. I think Philadelphia is going to use a lot of tight ends in this game. Arcega-Whiteside, I think, is worth a play just based on opportunity alone. For Washington, you got McLaurin and nobody else. I don't think McLaurin gets in. I think there's a really good chance Arcega-Whiteside does sneak into the end zone this week for Philadelphia. Next game, Seattle versus Carolina. A lot to like here because I think both offenses will score. I think Lockett and DK Metcalf are both starts and will both get into the end zone. Yes, I do think Lockett gets back in. Carolina, I like DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel as playing. I think DJ Moore is likely to get in the end zone. Curtis Samuel unlikely to get in the end zone, but still worth a play at the wide receiver position and nobody else. Tampa Bay versus Detroit. Mike Evans is out, so we'll see what happens. Chris Godwin is, though, a definite start. I have him graded as 2 touchdowns. Now, if Mike Evans had played, I had him graded as 1 to 2 touchdowns as well. So a lot of people have been asking me, is it Rashad Perriman? Look, I think he'll get opportunity. I think Scott Miller with, I know he's on the injury report. If he plays, I think he'll get some opportunity. But to me, I just feel like this offense is going to gravitate more to tight ends this week with the injury to Mike Evans. Remember, Mike Evans is a big presence, a big target. it. I think they're going to go more towards O.J. Howard. That's not what my computers are telling me. That's my gut instinct. So I must start on Godwin and nobody else at the wide receiver for Tampa Bay. But if you want to pick somebody up, you can certainly look into the depth chart and see who's going to play there. Like I said, I just think this rolls more towards tight ends, which isn't normal for this Tampa Bay offense. I know that. I've been saying this all year, but just circumstances this week, I think it'll happen. Now for Detroit, I do like Golladay to get in the end zone once or twice. Marvin Jones, I believe, is on the injury report, so I think you take a flyer on somebody like Danny Amendola potentially to get in the end zone. Now, if Marvin Jones somehow can play, I don't know how impactful that injury is. I do have him as a start and definitely getting into the end zone once, possibly even twice this week. Remember, Tampa Bay's their defense does give up yardage in that passing game and touchdowns in that passing game. Next game, we have Cleveland versus Arizona. Landry and Odell Beckham are both on the injury list. I do have both of them as starts if they can play, and I have Landry getting into the end zone and Beckham even potentially getting into the end zone as well. I like Landry more than Beckham regardless. We'll see what happens with those injuries. Now you have Arizona on the other hand. I don't like Christian Kirk, who's on the injury list. I don't like Larry Fitzgerald. I don't like any of these receivers. You could look at the slot receiver, whether it's Keyshawn Johnson, whether it's Bird. I do have that person graded as a touchdown, but we'll see what happens there. I don't love it. That's more of a daily fantasy strategy to me rather than a waiver wire desperation play. Jacksonville versus San Francisco. DJ Chark is on the injury list. If he can play, I think he's a definite start and gets into the end zone. Now, if he can't, look at Chris Conley, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook. I like Cole and Westbrook a lot more than I like I like Conley and Westbrook a lot more than I like Cole. Let's see. For San Francisco, Deebo Samuel and Emmanuel Sanders are definite starts. I think Samuel gets into the end zone. I think Sanders does not get into the end zone, but gets you yardage accumulation and definitely worth a start. Atlanta versus San Francisco. Julio is on the injury list. Calvin Ridley is out. So what does that mean? I would think with the shoulder injury, I still don't understand why Atlanta would play Julio Jones at this point. Let's just just punt, okay? Preserve him for the next season. I know that's not what fantasy owners want to hear, but here's the deal. You're playing San Francisco. Richard Sherman's not going to play. I know he's questionable right now. He's not going to play with that hamstring injury. It doesn't make any sense for him to play. San Francisco's banged up. I do think Atlanta's going to score some points this week, okay? Now, Julio Jones, I don't know if he's going to play. If he does, I think you could start him, and he could certainly get into the end zone. Russell Gage, to me, is the more interesting play here, coming off of waivers. He'll get you accumulation. You look at a guy like maybe Justin Hardy or Olamide Zaccheaus or something like that. We'll see what happens, but I don't love the matchup for Atlanta. To me, it's Russell Gage, and if Julio Jones plays, those are the two plays there. I wouldn't look at anybody else for Atlanta. For San Francisco, their defense is banged up, like I said, and I mentioned before Deebo Samuel and Emmanuel Sanders. Let's look at LA Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys. I do like this week Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I don't like Woods to score a touchdown. I do like Cooper Kupp to score a touchdown, and I'm selling on Brandon Cooks hard this season. I think he'll probably be waived after the season if the contract and the cap penalties will allow that. Now, Dallas Dallas on the other side of that matchup, I should say. Cooper Kupp, yes. Michael Gallup, yes. I think both get in the end zone. And even Randall Cobb, I think, will get you enough catches and yards to accumulate yardage there. So I think he could even be a waiver scoop up and play if he needs somebody there. Next game, Minnesota versus the LA Chargers. If Adam Thielen plays, I have him as a definite yes and to get in the end zone. If he doesn't play, I have Stephon Diggs. Now, if Adam Thielen plays, I'm actually kind of selling on Stephon Diggs. I think it's basically that primary receiver for Minnesota, and that is it. For the LA Chargers this week is, let's see here. I actually have both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen as starts. Keenan Allen getting the touchdown, Mike Williams getting you yardage accumulation. Last game of the week, we have Indianapolis on Monday night against New Orleans. T.Y. Hilton, assuming he'll play, he's come out and he said he feels loads better than he did last week when he sat. If he plays, I have him as a start and getting into the end zone. If he doesn't, then it goes to Zach Pascal, but I don't start both of those guys. So if T.Y. Hilton plays, I'm sitting Zach Pascal and everybody else on the Colts roster. For the New Orleans Saints, Mike Williams is a definite start, gets into the end zone 2 to 3 times, and then I'm selling on all other New Orleans Saints wide receivers. So there you go. That takes me through the wide receiver selection. Check out other videos. We have quarterback, running back, and tight end as well. Everybody, good luck. Let's win in those fantasy football playoffs.